This is a question and answer meeting. About 50 questions and more have been given, and you cannot possibly answer all of them. But we have chosen perhaps what might be representative of all these questions. We have been talking over together why human beings who have lived apparently for millions and millions of years have not been able to solve their conflicts, both outwardly and inwardly, why they are destroying the earth, polluting the air, why human beings are becoming more and more cruel, violent, and apparently none of these questions have been resolved. We are supposed to be highly civilized human beings, and one begins to doubt whether we are. And these questions that we have been put, perhaps by answering them, we might begin to understand a way of living which might be totally different. What is the significance of history in the education of the young? What is the significance of history in the education of the young? I think if one has read history books, it's fairly clear that man has struggled against nature, conquered it, destroying it, polluting everything that he touches. There have been wars, kings, Renaissance, industrialization, and man's struggle to be free, and yet he becomes a slave to institutions, organizations, and he tries to break away from them, but again forms another series of institutions, another series of organizations. So this everlasting struggle to be free, that probably is the history of mankind, according to books, and also the tribal wars, the feudal wars, the baronial wars, the wars of the kings, nations. It is still going on. This tribal mind, which has become national, sophisticated mind, but it is still the tribal mind. And that's what more or less, perhaps we're rather simplifying the history with the culture, music, painting, the whole thing. How is all that to be taught to the young? Surely, history is the story of mankind. Mankind, the human being who has gone through all kinds of suffering, through various diseases, through wars, through religious beliefs and dogmas, persecution, inquisition, torture, in the name of God, in the name of peace, in the name of ideals. And how is all that to be taught to the young? That's the question. If it is the story of mankind, story of human beings, then both the educator and the young are the human beings. It is their story, not the story of kings and war. It is their story. That is the story of themselves, right? Now can the educator help the student to understand the story of himself? I don't know if you're following on this. The story, the past, of which he is the result. Right? So can the educator help the student to understand himself? Because he's the story. That's the problem. Would you agree to that? That is, if you are the student, you are the educator and I am the student, how would you help me as a young student understand the whole nature and structure of myself? Myself being the whole of humanity. My brain is the result of many million years. How would you help me to understand myself, the story, the past, which is all in me? The violence, the competition, the aggressiveness, the brutality, the violence, the cruelty, the fear, the pleasure, occasional joy, and that slight perfume of love. How will you help me to understand all this? Which means the educator must also understand this. He's also understanding himself, right? And so helping the student, to understand myself. So it is a communication between the teacher and myself, and in that process of communication, he is understanding himself and he is helping me to understand myself. I wonder if it's not that the teacher or the educator must first understand himself and then teach. That would take the rest of his life, perhaps. But in the relationship between the educator and the person to be educated, there is a relationship of mutual investigation. Can this be done with the young child, with the young student? And how, in what manner would you set about it? That's the question, right? Are you interested in this? How would you as a parent go into this? How would you help your child, your boy or a girl, to understand the whole nature and structure of his mind, of his desires, of his fears? You follow? The whole momentum of life. Don't look at me. How would you deal with it? Don't say immediately we must have love and all that kind of stuff. But it's a great problem. And are we prepared as parents and teachers to bring about a new generation of people? That's what's implied. A totally different generation of people, totally different mind and heart. Are we prepared for that? If you are a parent, would you give up for the sake of your daughter and son, drink cigarettes, pot, the whole drug culture, and see that both the parent and the child are good human beings? The word good means well-fitting. Psychologically, without any friction, well-fitting, like a good door. You understand? Like a good motor. But also good means whole, not broken up, not fragmented. So are we, the elder people, prepared to bring about through education a good human being? A human being who is not afraid of his neighbor, afraid of the future, afraid of so many things, disease, poverty, fear. But also are we prepared in the search of the good, or in establishing the good, prepared or help the child and ourselves to be integral, integrity. The word integrity means to be whole. And integrity also means to say what you mean and hold it. Not say one thing and do something else. Integrity implies honesty. And are we prepared for that? Can we be honest if we have got any illusions, any romantic, speculative ideas or ideals? We have strong beliefs. Can we be honest? You may be honest to the belief, but that is not Yeah, that doesn't imply integrity. Are we prepared for all this? Or we bring children into the world, spoil them till they are 2 or 3, and then throw them to the wolves. Right? Prepare them for war. You know what is happening in the world. That's why history has not taught human beings. How many mothers must have cried, their sons being killed in wars. You understand? And yet we are incapable of stopping this monstrous movement of killing each other. So if you are to teach the young, one must have in oneself this sense of the demand of the good. Good is not an ideal. You understand? If we translate the good, which is to be whole, to have integrity, to have no fear, not to be confused. That is, these are not ideals, they are facts. You understand? So can we be factual and so bring about a good human being through education? And if we say yes, then what will the parent and you do about it? You understand? What is your responsibility? Because probably you have children. If you have, then what? You understand the problem? So one asks, do we really want a different culture, a different human being with a mind that is not confused, that has no fear, that has this quality of integrity? I hope I've answered that question. Why is knowledge always incomplete? When one is observing, is one aware that one is observing, or only aware of the thing being observed? Does awareness lead to analysis? What is psychological knowledge? I'll read it again. Why is knowledge, as you said, always incomplete? When one is observing, is one aware that one is observing, or only aware of the thing that is being observed? Does awareness lead to analysis? What is psychological knowledge? Who do you expect to answer these questions? The Delphic oracle, the highly elevated priests, the astrologers, the soothsayers, the reading of tea leaves. Whom do you expect to answer this question? But if you're not expecting anyone to answer this question, but since you have put this question, can we talk it over together? You understand? Talk it over together. Not that speaker will answer it and then you accept it or deny it and go home saying dissatisfied, say I wasted my morning. But if you could seriously talk over these questions so that we both penetrate into the problem, then it will be your own answer, not the answer of someone who has answered these questions you have heard, and it's not yours then. It's yours then. Like a man having cancer. You can talk about cancer, who hasn't got it. But if you've got it, you are involved in it. There's pain, there's anxiety, there's fear. So, can we talk over these questions? All of them. Not just this one, but also the previous question. Why is knowledge always incomplete, as you said? What is knowledge? What do you mean? What do we mean when we say, I know? Please go into it with me, together, slowly. When I say I know mathematics, or I know the medicine, surgery, and also I know through experience gathered some facts. So when we say I know or we know, what do we mean by that? You're following my question? To know. You may say, I know my wife, or my husband, or my girlfriend or boy. Do you really know them? Can you ever know them? Please follow this step by step. Or you have, as we said the other day, an image about them. Is the image the fact? You understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Are we meeting each other? So the word know is very, very limited, right? And the knowledge that has been acquired through science, not only the technological side of it, but also scientists are trying to find out through matter what is beyond. What is the origin of all this? And they have accumulated a great deal of knowledge. And what is beyond, they have never been able to find out so far. So knowledge, according to science, is limited, is narrow. Therefore, there is knowledge and ignorance always going together. The ignorance which is not knowing, and the knowing, they both go together always, right? I think that's fairly clear. But to answer a little bit more further, which is, we say through, scientists say through matter they will find that which may be beyond. We human beings are matter. Why don't we go through this rather than through that? You understand what I mean? You follow what I'm saying? Are we talking together? Because if the mind can go through itself, the possibility of coming upon that which is the origin of all things is much more likely than the other. I don't know. So, to know oneself is always limited. I don't know if you follow me. If I say I must know myself, I can study psychology, I can discuss with the psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychotherapists, psychobiologists, and so on, so on, so on. But it is always limited. Whereas if I understand myself, penetrate into this entity called myself, there is the possibility of going infinitely beyond, which we are going to discuss, and perhaps we may be able to go beyond during the next talks, because it's a very important thing. Because otherwise, life has very little meaning. Natural. Our life is pleasure, pain, the whole cycle of it. Reward and punishment, that's the pattern in which we live. And that pattern has created the knowledge which psychologically we have acquired. That knowledge which we have acquired created the pattern in which we are caught. Right? So knowledge, whether it is biological, medicine, science, must always be limited. That's simple, right? When one is observing, is one aware that one is observing, or only aware of the thing being observed? Does the awareness lead to analysis? First of all, let us talk over together, what do we mean by observing? There is visual observation, the tree, the hearing, not only with the hearing with the ear, but also hearing inwardly. You know this. So when we observe, do we really observe at all? Or we observe with the world? You understand? Are you following this? That is, I observe that thing, and I said tree. So I observe with the world. I don't know if you're following this. Right, sir? There is an observation with the world. So can I find out can we find out to observe without the world? You understand what I'm saying? Right? Are we proceeding together? So the world has become all important rather than the sea. Right? I observe, if we have a wife or a husband, with all the memory, pictures, sensations, the irritations and so on of each other. So we never observe. So next step is, can we observe a person with whom we have lived intimate and so on, without the image, without the picture, without the idea? Can you do it? You can do, perhaps we're able to perceive that thing which we call the tree without the word. That's very easy. If you've gone into it, that's very easy. But to observe a person with whom you have lived, and observe without the accumulation of the memory about that person. If you have gone into it, if you're interested in it, no, first of all, this observation through the image, through the picture, through the sensation, all the rest of it, through this accumulated memory, is no relationship at all. It's a relationship of one picture with another picture. And that's what we call relationship. But when you examine it closely, it's not relationship. It's my idea and your idea. So, can we observe without can we, in the observation, not make an abstraction of what we observe as an idea? You're following all this? Don't be puzzled, sirs. You're not used to all this, are you? So this is what we mean by psychological knowledge. That is, I have built up psychologically a great deal of information about my wife, if I have a wife or a girlfriend. I have built up this knowledge about her, correctly or incorrectly, depending on my sensitivity, depending on my ambition, greed, envy, all that, depending on my self-centered activity. You following all? Does this? So that knowledge is preventing actual observation of the person, which is a living thing, right? So I never want to meet that living thing because I'm afraid. It's much safer to have an image about that person rather than to see the living thing. Right? You're following this? So my psychological knowledge is going to prevent pure observation. So can Can one be free of that? Can the machinery that builds these images come to an end? You understand my question? Then you would say, how am I to end it? Right? I've got an image about my friend, whatever it is, and it's there like a tremendous fact, like a stone around my neck. How am I to throw it away? Right? Is the stone, the image around one's neck, different from the observer? I'm going slowly into this. Is that image, that weight around your neck, is that different from the observer who says, I have an image? I wonder if you can. You understand my question, sir? Meet me, so let's talk together, move. Is the observer who says, I have the image, and says, how am I to get rid of it? Is that observer different from the thing he has observed? You follow it? Obviously not. Right? Are you? So, the observer is the image maker. I want to see that. Right? Do you read this? So, what is the observer? Who is this observer that is making the image and then separating himself from the image and then saying, what am I to do about it? You understand? That's the way we live. That's the pattern of our action, and that's our conditioning, to which we are so accustomed, so naturally accept. So we are saying something entirely different, which is the observer is the observed, which means, let me go into a little more. I observe the tree, but I am not the tree. Oh, thank God. It is too stupid to say I'm the tree. Or I have identified myself with the tree. And so on, so on. All this process of identification is still the observer trying to be something or become something. So we have to inquire into what is the observer. Who is the observer? The observer is the result of all the past knowledge, right? His experience, his knowledge, his memories, his fears, his anxieties, the past. So, the observer is always living in the past. If you notice, you can watch it yourself. And he's modifying himself all the time, meeting the present, but still rooted in the past. Right? So there is this movement of time, which is the past, modifying itself in the present, going on to the future. This is the momentum or the movement of time. I won't go into that now for the moment. So when we observe, we are observing through the image which we have created about that thing or that person. Can we observe that thing without the word, or and can we observe the person without the image? That means, can the observer be absent in observation? Right? You get the point? Are you working with? When you look at a person, of course, if you're a stranger, you have no picture. Or you say, oh, he's a foreigner, throw him out. But when you look at somebody whom you know very intimately, the more intimately you know them, the more the image. Can you look at that person without the image? Which means, can you look at that person without the observer? You get it? I wonder if you, that is pure observation. So, does this awareness lead to analysis? Obviously not. You understand the question? That is, what do we mean analysis? Which is to analyze. Who is analyzing? You understand? I am analyzing myself, right? I'll go into it. I'm analyzing myself, or the analyst is analyzing me. When I analyze myself, who is the analyzer? You're following this? Is the analyzer different from the thing who is analyzing me? You understand? Is the analyzer different from me? Oh, come on, sir. Obviously not. You see, so we are, as in our talks and in this answering questions, we are eliminating the very structure of conflict, you understand, between human beings. The structure of conflicts exists as long as there is division. The division in myself which creates the division outside. There is a division in myself because I say I'm a Hindu. And the identification with that image of being a Hindu gives me security. So I hold on to that, which is nonsense. There is no security in an image. And the other fellow does the same. He's a Muslim or an Arab or a Jew. He does the same. So we are at each other's throat. So the analyzer is the analyzed. You understand? So what happens then? When the observer psychologically is the observed, and therefore no conflict. You understand? Because there is no division. If you see this clearly, that is, our minds have been trained, educated to have this division. I and the thing are different. I, with my anger, with my jealousy is different from me. Therefore, I must do something about it. Control it, suppress it, go beyond it. I'm acting upon it. But when jealousy, anxiety is me, what has happened? You understand my question? There is the elimination of conflict. Then what happens? Go on, sir. I don't want to go on. What happens? If you are actually doing this, as we are talking, when you end the division between the two, what happens? When anxiety is me, I am anxiety, obviously. Then what takes place? Don't wait for me to answer it. First of all, may I go on? First of all, I've broken, the pattern has been broken. Right? The pattern which is the conditioning of my mind, that pattern has been broken. Right? Which means what? The ending of something, right, is the beginning of something else. I wonder if you capture this. If I break the pattern, if the pattern is broken, the ending of the struggle, what then takes place? A new momentum takes place. You follow? A new movement takes place. Right, sir? Don't be skeptical. If you do this, you will find out. If you apply your mind, your energy, go into it. You can observe the tree, and the word tree interferes. The moment you see that, you say the tree, a butterfly, a deer, the mountain, wherever. You follow? Immediate reaction. That reaction can be observed and perhaps put aside and just to observe the tree, the beauty of the line of it. You follow? The grace of it, the quality of it. Now to do the same with the person with whom you have lived, with whom you have been intimate. Not to have a single image about that person. You know what? Then relationship is something extraordinary, isn't it? I wonder, no? If you don't do this, that's why you don't find out. We are so anchored in our own past, in our own condition, in our own pattern. God only knows how you're going to break it. Right? It has to be broken. It's like a man living in an illusion and calling that reality.
How, if the observer is the observed, how can you ever go beyond that? I mean, you can't make yourself step out of that.
Come on.
If the observer is the one observing is also what is observed, how can you ever get out of that? Because you can't. If you say, when you see it, you're still in it.
Sir, just to make sure. Are you actually, not you personally, I'm talking, not being personal, or is one aware of the fact of this? Fact, not the idea of it. The fact that the observer has the image about the person with whom he is observing, his wife and so on. Is he aware of that fact, of this division? And is he aware that this division is created by the image which he has made about him or her? Right? Are you aware of this fact? Or am I telling you of the fact? And therefore you accept it. Therefore it's not actual, just an idea. But if you say, yes, this fact is so, that is, there is the image about her or him, I am aware of that image, that picture, that idea. Then the next is the picture, the image, the actual person that's living with you? Obviously not. So who is creating this image? If you go sequentially, the answer is very simple, you understand? So, sir, first observe the tree, see whether you can see it without the word. When you see the thing called rose, can you look at that flower without naming it? You understand, sir? Test it out. Then find out if you have an image about a person. Now wait a minute. You have an image about me, haven't you? Because there are papers write about it or some silly book. You follow? You have an image about me. So, are you listening through the image? Through the picture? Through the articles you have read? Or the books you have? Or are you listening directly without the image? You understand? Come on, sir.
What happens when the other person behaves to confirm your image?
I suppose one's wife has no image about the husband. What is the relationship then between the husband and the wife who has no image? You understand the question? That's what you're asking. You understand, sir? You are violent and the other person is not violent. Then what is the relationship? Have you any relationship? Except perhaps sensory, sexual. Have you any relationship? Obviously not. But you are living in the same house. So what will you do? So you're not moving with facts, you see, that's why. You're living with ideas, that's the difficulty in this matter. So, all right, sir, let's go into it. My wife has no relationship, has no image about me. First of all, that's the most extraordinary way of living. You understand? In that perhaps there may be real, profound love. She has no image about me, but I have image, pictures, ideas, all that in me, piling up. and we are living in the same house, what takes place? She is free. I am not. And I create the conflict, not she. Right? I want her to have an image about me. Because that's how I'm used to that. So I begin a most destructive relationship goes on, right? Till she says, enough. Does she divorce me? Go on, sir, this is your job. Face it all. Leave me? Or her having no image of me has brought about totally different atmosphere in the house. You understand, sir? You have never done this. Don't test it out, sir. There's a totally different, I'm beginning to aware, because she's immovable. You understand? And I am moving all around. So I begin to see, when I meet something that's immovable, something happens to me. Isn't it happening to you now? Oh, come on, sirs. So a man goes from one religion to another, one guru to another, one philosophy, plays around. And another man says, I've been through all that, out, finished. He's immovable. You understand? So what happens? Test it out.
How to eliminate the image?
Huh?
How to eliminate the image?
How to eliminate? How to eliminate the image? You see, you haven't understood. You can't eliminate the image because you are the image maker. Right? Do you see that? You have to eliminate yourself. Which is your thought that has built up the image about yourself. I won't enter into the whole movement of thought because that requires a great, there are too many questions. We'll go into it when we talk. Doesn't thought originate as a defense against pain? The infant begins to think in order to separate itself from physical pain. Which comes first? Is thought, which is psychological knowledge, the result of pain, or is pain the result of thought? How does one go beyond the defenses developed in childhood? Doesn't thought originate as a defense against pain? The infant begins to think in order to separate itself from physical pain. That's which comes first? Is thought, which is psychological knowledge, the result of pain, or is pain the result of thought? how does one go beyond the defenses cultivated or developed in childhood, right? You've understood the question? What is the time, sir? Lord. Now, see, sir, how long one question or two questions take place. You know, really, there is only one question. If you consider all these questions, there is only one real question. What is that? Ask it, sir. One, if you had, please carefully, you're not, some angel comes along, somebody says you're asked only one question. And it must be the real question, not how am I to get rich, how am I to, who am I to marry, will my pay, you follow? But the real, deep, fundamental question.
How to eliminate thought?
Huh?
How to eliminate thought?
Who is the entity who says, how am I to do? You're not. I won't answer that question because you're unconcrete. You'll find out.
Why don't you ask the question?
Huh?
Why don't you ask it?
I've asked it. No, you're not quick enough, so that's the answer. So the question is, does thought create the pain, or pain creates the thought? Understand? You put a pin into this leg, it's communicated to the brain, then the pain, then the anxiety to end that pain. The whole of that is the momentum of thinking, isn't it? The nervous reaction, the identification with that reaction, and the identification saying, I hope it'll end and I mustn't have it in the future. All that is part of the whole momentum, isn't it, of the whole movement. Why do you separate the two? Does thinking come first or the pain comes first? You understand me? Who laid the egg business, you know? Does the chicken come first or the egg come first? You're missing the whole point, sir. It's not the time to go into this. Is fear, which is part of pain, is fear the result of thought? You understand? Is there fear without thought?
Is there fear period even with thought?
Huh?
Is there fear period even with thought?
So, the me is put together by thought. Obviously, I mean, your successive incidents, successive ideas, and genetic heritage, and so on, so on. The me is the result of thought. I am a Hindu, I am a Catholic, I am this, I am that. You follow? I am an American, I am successful, I'm a doctor, so all that is a bundle put together by thought. I'm asking, sir, most of us have had pain. Have you ever experimented to disassociate thought from pain? Haven't you? Of course you have done it. To watch the pain, not identify itself, and say, oh, I have pain. You understand? Sit in a dentist's chair for some time and watch the thing going on. So your mind observes without identifying. You can do this. I sat in the dentist's chair for 4 hours. I can tell you about it. Never a single thought came into my mind. I discovered that after I sat in 4 hours. How does one go beyond the defenses cultivated in childhood? Would you go to a psychoanalyst? Would you? No, wait, don't say no. That's how they exist. They're the modern priests. Now, would you go to a psychologist, psychotherapist, and so on, so on? There are so many varieties of these medicine men. Sorry, I'm not being rude to them. I'm just asking, would you go to them? That's the easiest way, isn't it? And we think they'll answer all the childhood problem. They can't. They may slightly modify it. They themselves say so. So what will you do? There is nobody you can go to, right? So do you face that? There is nobody. Your guru, God, priest, psychoanalyst, including Krishnamurti. Nobody you can go to. What will you do? Have you ever faced that? That fact that you cannot. Like you can go to a doctor if you have cancer. That's a different matter. The psychological knowledge that you have developed from childhood, which becomes neurotic, which most people are neurotic somehow, but and there is nobody on earth you can go to or in heaven. What will you do? Huh? How would you find out that you are neurotic? Not somebody telling you I'm neurotic, because most people are neurotic. If somebody tells me I'm neurotic, pot killing the kettle back, right? So how shall I find out I'm neurotic? Do I want to find out? If I do, how shall I know? How shall I seed. Have I really eliminated from my thought, from my mind, the idea somebody is going to help me? Do you understand, sir? See what I have done. You understand what? The very going to somebody to help me may be the essence of neuroticism. I wonder if you see this. So, what am I to do? How am I to know in a world that is almost neurotic? All my friends, my relations, they're all slightly imbalanced. And probably I am also imbalanced. So what shall I do? Knowing there is nobody I can go to. No confession, all that. Nobody. So what shall I do? See what has happened, sir, to me? You're not meeting it. As I cannot go to anybody, then what is taking place in my mind when I have depended on others, on books, on psychologists, you follow? On authority. What has happened to my mind? You're not. Go on, sir. What's happened to your mind if you actually realize that you cannot possibly go to anybody? No, what's it, sir? Don't answer. What happens to your mind? Is neuroticism the result of dependence? I depend on my wife, I depend on the doctor, I depend on God, I depend on psychologists. I follow? I've established a series of dependence around me, hoping in that dependence I'll be secure. Right? And I discover, as I cannot depend on anybody, what happens? Oh, come on, so what happens when you don't depend? Huh?
I'm naked.
Do it, sir. Do it. You understand, sir? We are bringing about a tremendous revolution, psychological revolution, right? Right? And you are unwilling to face it. I depend on my wife. She encourages me to be dependent on her. Or I am, it's both ways. So you tell me that's part of your neurosis. I don't throw it out. I examine it. I say, you are quite right. I see this. So can I be free of not depending on my wife? Psychological, of course. Will you do it? No, sir, you won't. Because you are frightened. You want something from her, sex or this or that. Or She encourages you with your ideas, helps you to be dominant, helps you to be ambitious. You follow? Now says you're a marvelous philosopher. So, to see that the very state of dependence on Allah is maybe the deep psychological neurosis. And when you break that pattern, what happens? You are saved. When you are free of the church, the priests, the popes, you follow? The whole works of all. And you understand what happens to you? What is the state of your mind? Sir, you must have such a mind to find out what truth is. Dependence has been from childhood, has been a factor against pain, against hurt, for comfort, for emotional sustenance, for encouragement. And all that has been built in you. You're part of that. If you say no more authority, religious authority, you know what happens?
So why did Christ say?
Oh, sir. You see, impossible to discuss. Sir, before Christ there was the Buddha. 500 BC. Before him there was somebody else. So it isn't just this one person that has suddenly discovered. That's your conditioning of 2,000 years. As in India, they are conditioned by 3,000 years. This conditioned mind can never find out what truth is. You may worship your images, enjoy them, but it's not truth. Don't throw bombs. So, sir, that means not to depend on anything means you are alone. Do you know what that word alone means? All one. That is sanity. That sanity breeds rationality, clarity, integrity. Sorry, sir, not to answer all the other questions.